as a photographer who moved over from analog to digital from almost the very beginning of commercial digital photography and digital cameras, I've always been heavily invested in the kind of technology side of things and post-processing. And like many of us, I suspect, I've also been quite frustrated about the capabilities of the tools that are available to me and forever finding flaws in applications, no matter how good the application is. There's always something that annoys you about it. And I've always had this desire to make my own app in some way and produce something that works the way I want it to work. And when the world of vibe coding came along, courtesy of AI tools like Claude Code and ChatGPT, I, of course, gave it a go. Now, unlike many people, I'm actually in quite a fortunate position in this regard because the day job is running a small design agency. And when I say small, I mean it's me and the missus, okay? There's no in-house staff running around making us foaming lattes in the morning. But it does mean that I have pretty good knowledge of coding, not intense coding, but I've got a good, robust understanding of it. And I have also a good understanding of design and how it pertains to the web and to web apps. And also, because we run a little design agency, it also means we've got our own server, a proper commercial server that we house about 50 client websites on, and which I can squirrel away a little bit of space on, install a few web apps, the odd database here and there, and use it for my own little projects. And just recently, I decided to create a special application. And the inspiration for this was partly my own experiences out photographing this part of South Coast, New South Wales, but it was also inspired by my missus. Now, my wife, Catherine, likes to go out on the local beach here, 7 Mile Beach, and go on a nice long walk. She puts her audio book on. She goes off down the beach and has a great old time, spends a couple of hours enjoying a nice long walk out in nature. But she used to get super frustrated trying to find the ideal time to go to the beach, the right tide, so there's nice firm sand, and when the weather's decent and there's not a force 9 gale blowing in your face as well. And it occurred to me that I quite like that too. It'd be a useful thing to know from a photography perspective when is a good time to go down onto the beach and maybe take photographs of the wildlife or just enjoy a bit of time squaring away the old mental health out in nature. And so I decided to try and automate and to create a web app that would forecast when the ideal time to go for a walk down on the beach would be. I decided I would tap into some freely available APIs on services like OpenMeteo, which is a worldwide weather forecasting service that anyone can use for free. And I found some cheap, but not free, tide information. And I put together a little app, partly using my own experience of coding and design and partly using Claude Code. And it started out quite humble, just a few beaches, but I have autism and ADHD, and I must admit, I kind of fell down the rabbit hole somewhat, and it grew quite a lot. In fact, rather than just having a couple of beaches, I ended up doing the whole of New South Wales. That's about 600, 700 beaches or something in there. I think I've got pretty much all of them in there now. It's about 2,000 kilometers of coastline. And I've set up a web app, which is called Sea Steps. And I've got it running on the old laptop here, and I'll give you a quick walkthrough. So here's the old home screen. First time you visit, you get this nice little info block that tells you what the app is all about. Sea Steps calculating the optimum time for an easy breezy beach walk, combining up to the minute weather feeds, local tides, and your preferences. And on the screen, you can flick between metric and imperial if you really want to, but we're in Australia, so of course everything is in kilometers an hour and degrees centigrade, which is the way it should be. And you can set a beach to be your default beach, so when you go to this home screen in the future, that's the one it lands on. By default, if you haven't chosen one, it selects Bondi Beach. So as you can see, we've got some informational cards here. We've got a nice purple block on the left here for Bondi Beach with the temperature that it is now, the wind speed, the current conditions, the rating. Anyone can rate any of the beaches that you want, and we've also got a beach type. On the right-hand side here, we have the ideal window of opportunity to go for a walk on the beach. Now, this was for earlier in the day. I'm filming this quite late at night, but it said that first thing this morning, 5:30, which is not long after sunrise, up until about 20 to 8 in the morning, was the best time to go for a beach. So if we look, we can see the wind was coming from a northwesterly direction, low UV issue, and there was a very light wind, just 5 kilometers an hour with no gusting. And it gave it a predicted forecast of fair. And we can look at the legend here and we see fair. It's kind of middle ground of forecasted conditions. If we scroll down the page a bit, we can see there's a location map here, which of course updates for whichever beach you're looking at. We've got a tide schedule with that window of opportunity to forecast best time of the day to go for the walk, highlighted in green on the schedule. Further down here, we've got a weekly forecast, so every day ahead of the week. And we can look at that and we see it's going to be absolutely lovely this week, getting up to 27, 28 degrees, at least for a bit. And the tides are looking pretty good. If we look at Monday, we can see the high tide of 1.3 meters at 2:45 or thereabouts. But the forecast time it's saying is actually first thing in the morning, the first low tide of the day. So not long after sunrise until about 8:45. And we can scroll this across and see a full week ahead. Slightly further down the page, we've got the current conditions for the beach I've chosen, Bondi. We can see the current conditions, 15 degrees and the light wind. A little compass here that tells you which way the wind's going to be going as you walk down the beach. Got walking east, wind at your back, walking south, wind at your back, walking north, wind in your face, etc. On the right-hand side here, and I'm very proud of this bit, we've got some wildlife spotting on Bondi Beach. Of course, changes whichever beach you're on. This gives you general information about wildlife that you might see, but it's also clever enough to know that if there's wildlife specific to a beach, then it will talk about that in there. For instance, we've got some rare seabirds here on 7 Mile Beach, and it references those in these notes. So these recommendations about the wildlife that you might see when you're down on the beach changes depending on the beach you're looking at the time. We've also got a week ahead tide schedule here if you want to do your own planning, so you can see what the tide times are going to be, and some useful links down the bottom. If I want to, I can search for any beach I want. My local beach is 7 Mile Beach. I can type that in. There it is, 7 Mile Beach, Shoalhaven. And everything will update. I'll get new weather, new walking forecasts. It's loaded the data. You can see that this beach prediction time has changed. We can see the maps updated. We can see the weather forecasts have changed. These walking times are different. Everything is tuned by my little algorithm to the beach in question according to weather, tide, wind, and some other factors. If you like a beach, then you can add it to your favorites by clicking the little heart icon there, and you can click the house button to set it as your default. If you really like it, you can rate the beach. I've already done that. And you can search for any beach in New South Wales. I've only done New South Wales only at the moment. If this proves to be popular with people and they like using it, then I will definitely consider doing the other states in Australia. And who bloody knows, maybe even the rest of the sodding world. Let's search for another one. Let's go to Hyams Beach. See what it's doing down there. Well, Hyams. There we go. Wait for that to refresh, and we've got all the new information, the maps changed, and all the rest of it. I've also got an explore page in here where it's got all of the beaches that I mapped on this here. And I can zoom in on this if I want. Zoom in on some of these icons and any of the beaches that appear here. I can click on the tile in that explore tab and go directly to that beach. I've clicked on Pearl Beach and I can see the location of it on the map there. All the information about when the best walking times would be, the wildlife that's specific to that. They're saying there's little penguins on this beach and peregrine falcons, Australian fur seals and swamp wallabies. I've also got a couple of little informational pages on there about how this works, how I put together the algorithm, and if there is a missing beach. And like I say, I'm pretty sure I got all of them, but I may well have missed something out. You can come to this page and click on the button to report any of the beaches that are missing. Now, while this app, C Steps, turned out to be quite a fully developed product in the end, it was actually an experiment on my part because I want to create some apps, preferably proper mobile phone apps, probably iPhone because that's what I use, specifically tailored to my photography needs. And I'm hoping that people will share my interest in those and have a similar set of requirements out of these apps. I don't want to go into too much detail about what I'm dreaming up for that specific iPhone app that I've got in mind, because what's that saying? Announce your plans and God laughs. Isn't that the saying? And I've certainly been guilty of doing that in the past, of making grandiose announcements about something and then not following through on it. So I'll keep my cards a bit close to my chest at the moment, but I am working on an app specifically for photographers, covering stuff that I don't think is catered for in anything else on the market at the moment. It's been really good fun coding this in conjunction with Claude. It did all the tricky stuff for me, connecting to the APIs, to the databases, setting up the tables in the databases, and let me do all the nice creative bits and pieces in conjunction with it. And if you haven't tried it yourself, I strongly advise you to give it a go. It's quite good fun. And if you're paying for something like Claude or ChatGPT at the moment, it's also free. There are time limits on the amount of time you can spend in Claude Code, which is quite frustrating. You get these 5-hour blocks, which never seem to be anywhere close to 5 hours, in which you can do your coding and ask it questions and have it look at the actual application files and make changes to them. But you know, if you plug away at it, then you can create interesting stuff that meets your specific requirements. Anyway, just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on that. If you want to go and have a look at my little app there, it's csteps.au. As I say, it's just the beaches in New South Wales here in Australia at the moment. But like I say, if it proves to be popular, then I can go on and do other states. Maybe if I get a bit of a cash injection, one of the tourism organisations, perhaps to fund it. There's already been a fair bit of interest in this. I got interviewed on the radio the other day, and all I did was mention it in a couple of the local Facebook groups, and I got a phone call from ABC Radio to talk about it. So it seems like people really love it. There's quite a bit of interest in it. And so if you fancy doing something yourself, I say give it a go. Kind of a different video from my usual ones. I understand that. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to know more about this kind of stuff, about making your own coding tools for your photography, because the world's your oyster, really, in terms of what you can do with this stuff. And if you've ever been frustrated by the tools available to you, and you want some very specific thing, some very niche thing, then Claude Code and the other GPT programming tools are absolutely brilliant for that. Anyway, I'm waffling on. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, or you enjoy this, consider subscribing to my channel. I just ticked over 20,000 subscribers. Who can bloody believe it? Thank you to everybody who subscribed to my channel recently. All right, that'll do us for this one, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Ta-ta for now.